My name is Carl Widman, W-I-D-M-A-N-N. I'm the chief engineer on Mustang.
My name is Sean Kiernan. This original Bullitt movie car has been in my family for 44 years.
Thanks for taking the time to talk with me. And obviously we've got the third generation of Bullitt here.
Absolutely.
So tell me, how is this different from a GT? Let's start with the easy stuff.
What we've done is really stretch the grill all the way out and just use the real light highlight of chrome. So it really looks like the wheel's got a wider appearance to it, which gives it a little bit more aggressive stance overall. And we also do a lower grill that's also painted black, and it really stretches out to the corners now to really accentuate just the basic body lines of the car. And that really comes out in the body lines when you look at the new Dark Highland Green. It's got a little blue in it to kind of give it a little flake, but it really is dark enough to really bring out the crease in the hood as it goes all the way back down to the quarters for the haunches in the car, and it really lets that pop and come through.
My dad actually is the third owner. He bought it in October '74. It was actually in the back of Road and Track as a classified ad. And yeah, bought it October '74, and my mother and father drove it through the '70s for about 6 years.
To work,
oh yeah, every day. My mom's a third grade Catholic school teacher, so she's now retired, but they put 41,000 miles on it between them in about 6.5 years. And at that point, I was born, and really wasn't practical as a family car. My sister was 11 years old when I was born, and so I came home from the hospital on Plymouth Horizon. Not so much a '68 Fastback, but I have that car too, by the way. But yeah, so at that point, the clutch had gone out. A couple things were just, iffy about it. Obviously, it had a rough life with only 65,000 miles on it. Been beat pretty hard, but yeah, my whole life, she always sat in the garage.
Again, new wheels, new 5-spoke with just a little bit of machining around it to bring out some pop. Again, a little bit of a nod to the past to go to red painted calipers, give it a nice little sport appearance, and then take that chrome highlight right around the door opening. But again, very subtle. Let the car kind of speak for itself. In the back, what we've done is to take that subtleness around, we've done a new lower valence, which really kind of comes up flush with the exhaust tips, and then we've taken the tips and we use the same coating as on the Raptor, which is a ceramic coating, to really make them black and then fade into the background. On the interior, what we wanted to do is give it a little bit of class, but also a little bit of a nod to the past. So you'll see on the IP, we've done a new applique. Again, always the guys impress me. They can find a new way to do a pattern on the aluminum applique. This one gives us a little hint to a nod to the past. The cue ball shifter, again, when we saw Sean's car, we really wanted to accentuate that and give you the opportunity to have a true look of a cue ball shifter. Nice weight, nice feel. And then for just some class, we've taken the Highline trim series, is based on Bullitt. So we got a 12-inch digital cluster with a customized startup for the Bullitt. We've taken a nice green detail for stitching around the IP, the door trims, the seats, the consoles. And then we've taken the LED lighting off the sill plates and gone to just a straight up stamped aluminum to say a Bullitt.
She always sat in the garage, and it really wasn't something that we were focusing on keeping from anybody or anything.
It's one of those things.
It just ended up being one of those things. The internet was born, in the early '90s, and that's when things kind of got a little weird, and people were searching and looking out for the car and trying to find it. And late '90s, we actually had Charlie's Angels, the transportation guy, reach out to my father and try to get it for one of the movies. Drew Barrymore wanted to drive it and was absolutely doing anything he possibly could to get it. And at that point, it was sitting on jack stands and wasn't ready to go anywhere, because we're car guys. Every car guy on this planet, if not now, will have a car on the back burner that they're working on. Ours just happened to be Bullitt. And in '01, when Ford came out with their first commemorative edition, we started taking it apart. We were just going to freshen it up, never to restore it or disrupt history. And then in 2008, we started focusing on it again. And you know, things were going on. My dad had gotten, my dad got Parkinson's. I was, you know, had my family and my first daughter, my second daughter, and yeah, it was something that we were working on. But sadly, in 2014, my father had passed away unexpectedly. The car was in a million pieces, and yeah, it was one of the toughest things I think I ever had to do as far as putting it back together. Because I can take care of the farm, I can take care of my mother, but something that the whole world's going to see that's the most personal thing on the planet for me was very tough.
A lot of weight.
Yeah, and to do it right and proper. And so I took, because I've been in the paint and body business my whole life, the weird twist. To me, I took what, instead of restoring and changing that over to preservation and to preserve the history of the car and to keep going forward to make sure it doesn't deteriorate anymore, get any worse. So that's the main focus for me.
How much did that pay for it?
Between $3,000 and $6,000. The second owner says $6,000.
Yeah.
I think it was more closer to $3,000, so we say between $3,000 and $6,000. Yeah, I know my father. Yeah, I know the car he had before. So, and but I love the second owner. His name's Frank. He's an amazing guy. I still talk to him almost every week. So
you had the car completely apart?
Definitely everything but the doors, the dash, and the glass.
Yeah. And so it was kind of a body off restoration.
Exactly. Yeah.
Without restoring it.
Without restoring it. It was fun for me because what it was is taking it off, but making sure that you preserve the paint in the condition it's in. Make sure it doesn't get scratched. This isn't something that you can buff out. But take it apart, go through the bolts, the nuts, and dust them off, and make sure everything, you know, knock the rust off of it, put it back together, and try to match up the body lines the best you can. I mean, here I am 50 years later, and after the movie had wrapped, they actually got the car back to, you know, this condition to promo the movie in October. Here I am 50 years later trying to make sure that the Bondo doesn't fall off or crack anymore or it doesn't deteriorate anymore.
So what we want to do for this, right? So we got the appearance to give it that class, you know, that cool look. What we want to do with the motor is really highlight the part of the movie chase where the vehicle is really a character, where it's talking to you on the screen. There's no soundtrack. So the trick for us was, how do we take the motor and what parts would we do it to both get acoustic out of it, and what we really want to do is push the horsepower, so we had full horsepower up the red line. Because we know when we put the horsepower curves together, it's not just the advertised we're after the feel, right? And that was really big what we wanted to do, but we also wanted to change the acoustics. I mean, we love the way the GT sounds. What we're really after this time is a real linear sound and a real linear performance. So how we did that on the engine is we were fortunate that we had the GT350 intake manifold available in the parts bin. It's a really high flow, high RPM kind of an intake manifold. It's taller than what we had existing. Coupling that with a throttle body that's gone from an 82 to an 87 millimeter, and then an open air box. What that gives you is, it gives you real high flow at high RPM. So we took the horsepower curve, and instead of coming down, it now takes all the way out to 7,500 RPM peak horsepower. You'll feel that when you drive it. It always is kind of egging you on to go higher RPM. And then also the benefit when we go to the open air box and a big throttle, it really gives you a little bit of low frequency and a lot more content, low RPM, so it really balances out the sound because you get sound from front of you. So we don't have to pipe it into the cabin like we do anymore. We're able to use this whole open air box system to give you that sound as you chip in. And then we coupled it with the exhaust system, so when you go closed throttle, we're able to create a bark in the car or a burble. So it'll come back at you and say, is it really you want to go closed throttle, or actually do you want on throttle?
You're at 480 instead of 460.
Yep. So what we did is we did the same thing we do on Shelbys. There's a guy in the line, all he does is all day is he goes through your Shelby number. It's called a chassis number is what we do at Flat Rock.
Yep.
And you'll see this one's a pre-production, so it's PP, which is a pre-production phase. The production ones will switch over to either, I think it's K000. And what he does is that's the chassis that goes down the line. Since I got so many different countries that will VIN identify, and then we got to basically sequence them based on constraints, that's a way we can keep which one you were. And then at the end of the year, we'll say how many they are and put it up on 6G.
So there's no like, you're going to only build 2,000, you're going to build 3,000, nothing like that?
No, so we were limited production, so we know the engines are limited, you know, the wheels, the shifter balls, the exhaust tips, a lot of the parts, grills have a limited we can do, and it's really coupling that with our other limitations on stuff. If you want MagnaRide, right, we got limitations on that. So as we get the orders in, we're balancing all that off, but demand has been pretty high. You got to remember, we're building it globally, so I'm building right-hand drive and left-hand drive combinations, so we got pretty high demand from a lot of export countries too to balance off against the North American.
And where are you building it? Michigan?
Yep, built in Michigan in Flat Rock Assembly Plant.
What was the hardest part on the car to get back?
I'll tell you the hardest. That's a great question. The fuel lines.
Really?
So the camera mounts on the driver's side are all over the fuel lines. So the left front camera mount, there's a very small window without a camera mount to get that fuel line out, and then they ugly welded a camera bracket right in there.
It was just a 68 Mustang, right?
Exactly.
It was not a big deal.
You do what you got to do to get it done. Yeah, that was about a 2-dayer, and my wife can actually tell you that day because it was a bad one. You could see me yanking on this car pretty hard, so it's blood, sweat, and tears.
Some of these dents, you know, do these mean anything? Do these? You remember, like as a kid, maybe dropping a basketball?
No, yeah. Funny enough, so the dent in the roof and why it has a new bumper on the car is actually my grandfather. So when it was stored in New Jersey before we moved to Kentucky, my grandfather had tossed a couple tires on the top of it, and and he actually backed into it twice. So that's why it has a new bumper. And with all the camera mounts that are on the front of it,
the camera mounts.
yeah, definitely. So you can see there's 3 on either rocker, and if you notice them now, then when you rewatch the chase, you won't be able to unsee it.
Okay.
It kind of ruins it a little, but it doesn't. It's actually kind of fun. And then there's 2, if you get under, you can see them that they're at the end of the frame rails, just 1x1s.
Yeah.
And but they welded right over the bumper brackets. So for me to take a bumper that had been beaten on hard and try to make it even look right would have been impossible. So through the advice of a couple other amazing guys, they said leave the new bumper on and just tell the story about your grandfather.
You see a lot of similarities in the grills for what we're doing. Again, we don't do a full chrome bumper anymore, but that general concept of a light touch on the design to really kind of accentuate the car itself.
And what's your favorite part of the new Bullitt Mustang?
I think it's tough. I think the one I probably sweat the most bullets on is that shifter.
Yeah.
That was probably, it's the last part in we got on the build.
Yeah.
So that was probably the one I always when I drive mine around, I'll be think about that.
And they only come in manual, right?
Absolutely.
You can't give it automatic.
They're available already. Mine's sitting in Blackwell, Florida.
Congratulations. You can pick it up after this?
After I get back from this, I pick it up, yes.
Okay, good. Luckily, it's not wintertime.
You got it. Beautiful time to get it.
Yeah.
Take it to Woodward.
Yeah.
So they're available. They start about $46,500 in the U.S.
And then if you add on
there's not many options. So there's a tech package, which is like $2,000, and then MagnaRide might be $1,500.
So
yeah, 51, 52.
Yeah.
Less tax and stuff, dealer destination, but it's not. So probably 46 to 52, and then it's really the other decision is between Recaro and non-Recaro, which is just totally a preference.
So what'd you get?
I actually, what I got is
the MagnaRide?
I got the MagnaRide because it is just such a phenomenal deal, right, for what you get. I get the tech package.
Okay.
Because the Bliss is nice and a couple other things for creature comforts. I did not get the Recaros, but my preference, because I spent so much time on the seats to get the new seat pattern.
Yeah.
So I just went with that.
Okay. So Sean, I got to ask, are you going to get a new one, or do you have one ordered?
I already have one, yeah. And believe it or not, as soon as I actually get grounded and get back home, there's one waiting in Michigan for me, and she's number 2.
You get number 2. What happened to number 1? Where did that go?
Number 1 got auctioned off for Boys Republic.
Oh, nice.
So it was amazing, yeah.
So you get number 2.
Yeah, but I did meet that family. They're proper Bullitt guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's number 2, because in my heart, you know, this is number 1. So of course, number 2. So the plates that are actually on the car are jersey plates. They're personalized. They say Bullitt. My mom got those for my father on their 10-year wedding anniversary. My dad never put them on the car just to draw. He didn't want to draw attention to it. So they hung in my room my whole life. The first time that it actually went on the car was July 4th, 2016, and that's the first day I started the car. I invited my mom over, and she was actually videoing me starting it for the first time. My wife was standing in front of it with the fire extinguisher, and I fired it up. And it was amazing because, you know, my mom said, that sounds like Bullitt. And to me, after all the work that I had done, that's perfect. That's box check.
So the Bullitt is based off of, when you think about it, it's somewhere between a premium and a premium plus, because it's got a 12-inch cluster with it. It's a performance pack, so it has the Brembo 6-piston front calipers, all the bracing, all the reinforcement, the Michelin PS4s, right? So it already really is a performance pack that's pretty high trim content when you look at it. And then you pick up an engine on top and a styling, right?
And then you can get it as long as you like green or black, right?
Green or black, yes.
Why black?
Black is the super understated one. If you look at them out here, a lot of what I like about the green is, you know, yeah, it's a nod, but it's also a beautiful color. The black actually takes it to really an understated position, because all you see, you will not see as much as the highlights, as this one highlights the lines. So all you really see is the chrome, because the grille kind of blends in as not being contrast. So all you see is then the chrome highlights.
I have to ask this, but you think this is the last one that you're going to do? Can you look into the future?
Oh, man, it's tough. When I tell people about this particular one and why the team felt it was so important to do, is when you think about the emotions people feel when they watch the movie, right? Those are core to the emotions of Mustang, right? You know, freedom, individuality, you know, just power. All these things that come across are really what the Mustang is. So I think it's always a touchstone point for the brand of, can you on the car create enough emotion to really resonate in that Bullitt genre. And then, you know, I talked to Daryl from studio, he'd say this is the coolest one we do. It doesn't rely on anything except the body lines and the shape.
Didn't Steve try to get the car at some point?
Yeah.
I think, what happened? Tell me that story.
Yeah, so Steve had gotten my dad's information from the second owner, from Frank, and he reached out to my dad a couple times by phone and then sent a letter. It was actually December '77. McQueen had reached out to my dad asking to buy the car back. You know, at that point, my dad had the car for 3 years, and it was just part of the family. And like anybody else, you know, you had a car for 3 years, you didn't want to swap it for another one that wasn't it. And yeah, it was a kind of a thanks but no thanks kind of deal.
That's good.
Yeah, but they, you know, it was.
They wouldn't be here otherwise.
Exactly, and yeah, it's as far as meaning the most to me, you know, she does her job. I just stand next to it and try to tell her story.
But there are more than one of these, right?
Yeah, so there was a jump car. It didn't fare so well. So this is in about 90% of the chase. I think originally they were trying to do a 50-50 thing to where the other car was going to get beat on. This is going to be the pretty with camera mounts for all the beautiful shots. But after they jumped the first car, it didn't do so well. And then this ended up doing about 90% of the chase. So yeah, that car resurfaced about 1.5 years ago, which was nervous for all of us, because here we are in hiding, and all of a sudden Fox News comes along saying the original Bullitt found. But yeah, they're in the process of actually restoring that car. So yeah, it'll take a while.
So I was talking to some of the museum guys here, and they were kind of wondering how much it would be worth if it went to one of the auctions. You know?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'm sure you got to think about that.
Yeah, and you know,
one of one, well, one of two maybe.
Yeah, one of one complete. But yeah, it. You know, that's always one of the top questions. It's always, are you going to restore it, and what's it worth? obviously knowing the restoration, and in my opinion, it's worth what somebody would pay for it. Don't know. I know what I insure it for, and that's about as much as I can afford.
Okay.
So
it's worth millions.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
tens of millions, probably.
Yeah, definitely. So I knew that I had to make best friends with the guy that owns the insurance company as soon as I could. So he is a good friend. So.
All right. And last question.
Yeah.
What you gonna do with it?
When it comes down to it, I'll show it as much as I possibly can this year and going into next year, and show it off as much as I possibly can to people that hadn't seen it because it's been hidden for so long. But the end result's for her to come home.
Yeah. Are there any other plans at shows that you're going to have it at this year or next year?
Yeah, I'll be announcing. We're going to do quick museum stints starting in the end of the year, and I'll be announcing it. But you can always follow it on Instagram at The Real Bullitt.
Okay. Cool.
And yeah, I'll always announce something on it. It'll be going to Woodward here in about a week.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So we're going to be doing Woodward.
You can drive?
No.
Oh no!
No, yeah, there's no way. I've heard way too many horror stories about Woodward, so even the bumper to bumper stuff, she'll be sitting.
You can have it there at the.
Yeah, and I'll have number 2, mine as well. So it's waiting. So I'm excited for that. But it'll definitely be there, and then for the Mustang Memory Show at the World Headquarters as well the following day. And then she'll hopefully come back out for Pebble Beach, so we'll see.
Sean, thank you very much.
Oh, definitely.
Man,
thank
I really
you.
appreciate you taking the time to show me the car. And guys, thanks for watching, and check out tflcar.com for more news and one-of-one Bullitt previews, checkouts, I don't know, whatever this is. Thanks for watching. Ciao.